Hello, welcome to Good Morning Transfers. Manchester United's summer spending is approaching £200 million, with striker Rasmus Højlund set to be formally announced soon. Coming up on today's show, Harry Kane's future is yet to be decided, with Bayern Munich expected to make another bid for the Tottenham striker. West Ham are yet to make a signing this summer, weeks after selling Declan Rice, as the club decided to walk away from a deal to sign James Ward-Prowse. Plus, we'll discuss Liverpool as their second bid for Romeo Lavia is rejected, with a new target emerging. Hello to everyone watching on the Sky Sports Premier League YouTube channel, and to Olivia Bazaglo, Dan Bardell and Kweku Afari. Right, Rasmus Højlund, he's had a medical with Manchester United. That was yesterday. The Atalanta striker will then sign a 5-year contract with the option of a further 12 months. The deal for Højlund is worth an initial £64 million plus £8 million in performance-related add-ons. Atalanta went into negotiations wanting £77 million guaranteed. Right, Olivia, why have they targeted him?
I mean, it was Manchester United desperately needed a number 9. Everyone said that. Now, one of his former managers has described him as self-confident, sometimes perhaps a little bit cocky if you don't actually know him, but he will work so hard. And he believes in himself. We know Wout Weghorst didn't quite work out for Man United last season, but he's still actually really tall, Højlund. This really surprised me. He's 6'3", which I didn't realise, but he's quick, he's got flair, he's a really intelligent footballer, and I think that's one thing that Erik ten Hag really likes. We know how much he loves a player who's very intelligent. On the ball, I mean, Mina Rizuki made a really good point. He said he's a system player, and he was very good at Atalanta because he knew the system so well. So it might take him a little bit of time to adapt. In that case, we've seen Jadon Sancho play up top for Man United in pre-season. We know Marcus Rashford can play there as well. But he is such an exciting young player, and I think one that Manchester United believe has so much potential and can get to that level of world class under Erik ten Hag's coaching.
In terms of the type of striker that he is, Dan, in terms of his actual physique, it seems like that's the type of striker that every club's now targeting.
Yeah, he's 6'3". I wouldn't say he's notoriously good in the air, but he's obviously got some size, and you're right, there is a trend kind of emerging amongst the top clubs now. If you think with Manchester City with Haaland, Liverpool spent a lot of money on Darwin Núñez last summer as well, and now Højlund going to Manchester United. That's 3 of the top teams in the country operating with 6-foot-plus strikers. So it's kind of showing that football, or the Premier League certainly, is moving away from the trend of the false 9, which was something that had been happening a lot over the last few years. He's not an avid presser. He presses in the right areas, and for those that like their stats, actually no Serie A forward averages more progressive passes received than Højlund per 90. So that just shows that in and around the penalty area, he's very adept at taking the ball in and creating chances for his teammates. So he'll offer Manchester United a different dimension. Olivia just reeled off a list of all the people that can play up top for Manchester United, but the people that you listed, number 9 is not really their best position. Yeah. Rashford's far superior on the left-hand side than he is as a central striker. So if he's on his best position on the left, and he scored 30 goals last season, I think it was, in all competitions, they're adding Højlund into the mix now, a player who's got room to develop under Ten Hag as well. Ten Hag's been a good developer of players over the years. I think it's a really exciting signing.
Do you think he goes straight into that Man United starting 11?
I don't think you can spend that money and not put him straight in. But there's a bit of competition for places in there. Now you think how much they spent on Antony last window. Arguably, he's not in their best 11 at the moment. Antony, one of him or Sancho isn't going to be in that best 11. We've seen Fernandes play from the right-hand side at times as well. So they've got that little bit of competition for places now, that little bit of extra quality. And over the last few years, they've not really had that.
So it reminds us of their summer signings so far, Kweku.
So Manchester United have got their dealings done pretty efficiently this summer. Obviously, it was a slow start for them, but they've brought in players that Ten Hag has clearly targeted. If you look at Mason Mount from Chelsea, Andre Onana from Inter Milan, a player that Erik ten Hag knows very well, worked with him at Ajax, and the impending signing of Rasmus Højlund as well. We've got Johnny Evans, who's training the club, but his future's undecided at the moment. And so it's been very clear this summer with Erik ten Hag and the incomings at Manchester Manchester United in terms of the way they want to play. Earlier in pre-season, he talked about how direct he wants his team to be, how aggressive, and he wants them to be one of the best transitional teams in the world. And these players and these signings are a sign of that intent for both Ten Hag and Manchester United. They're going to play a certain type of way. I think United fans were maybe jarred by the profile players brought in last summer because of the perception of Erik Ten Hag, a Dutch manager that people might have expected to play total football. But it's not going to be possession-based for Manchester United. It's going to be high intensity, high pressing and counter-attacking and transitional play. And the players that he's brought in definitely lend themselves to that.
I don't think they could do fully what Erik Ten Hag wanted to do last season. I don't think they had the players. I don't think they certainly did not have the goalkeeper to play exactly the way that Ten Hag had played with his previous teams. I think now the signings they've made this window make them more likely to be able to do that. You think of Mount and how good he is at pressing Onana, who I've just mentioned, in goal. And then Højlund adds a new dimension up front. It's because of Ten Hag has worked well with big strikers in the past as well, strikers who are 6 foot plus. So I think now you're starting to see a team that is completely in his image.
Do you think that he was maybe scarred? Remember those first 2 games last season against Brighton and Brentford? And it was almost a shock. And there was a lot of talk about Erik Ten Hag's future after 2 Premier League games. Do you think maybe adjusting to the Premier League is a reason why he's changed his approach and he's not going for that possession-based football anymore?
I think he's just an intelligent manager. I think he was quite reactive to what happened. They lost those first 2 games and Manchester United did not look in a good place at all. But after that, he pretty much arrested it straight away. They went on to beat Liverpool early on in the season and put in a good performance at Old Trafford that day. And from then on, they never really looked back. Not really ever in the title race, but I don't think anyone expected them to be. I'm not sure they will be this season either, but I think it'll be another season of continuous improvement for Manchester United.
But Ten Hag has been backed by the board, hasn't he, ever since he came in?
Yeah, I don't think he can argue with the money that he's been given to spend. You look at all those players that he's brought in there, 334.6 million spent. Mostly been successes. The jury's probably still out on Antony, but Casemiro and Lisandro Martinez certainly added something to the side. Eriksen on a free, brilliant signing. Malacia, a player that probably has become backup, but still you need players like that in the squad that are reliable and can come in and give you a 7 out of 10 when they do play, even if they don't play every week. And as I've just mentioned, those 2 signings there at the bottom, Onana and Mount, I think they will really enable Ten Hag to do what he wants to do.
It has been different this summer to last summer, though. Yes, money has been spent, but this time, Olivia, there is a clear difference, certainly in the time frame.
Yeah, there is, and it's been clear that the strategy this summer was to do deals early and to get them done, which is such a difference from last season. Casemiro signed on the last week of the transfer window. They also agreed a deal for Antony. I think that was literally 2 days before the transfer window closed. And this season it's been completely different. Mason Mount was signed. He joined up on their tour of America. Onana as well was slightly later, but still played a little part in their pre-season tour as well. Højlund looks set to be done before the start of the season. So that is a clear difference. And I'm sure Erik Ten Hag will be happy with the incomings, but I still think Manchester United still need to focus on outgoings now. It feels like they've got the players that Erik Ten Hag wants, but now it's a case of still getting those players out that they need to.
Because that net spend, Quaker, is actually quite high. That can change between now and the end of August, well, start of September, but it is not many fees have come in, have they?
Yeah, and it was quite noticeable. I was looking into this, and Manchester United haven't recouped significant fees for players that they've got rid of. They've normally been either on frees or minimal money because the players are coming to the end of their contract, and they've obviously brought in a lot of players for a lot of money. What's also notable in terms of the players that Manchester United have brought in, they're players that fit Ten Hag's system. If you look over the last couple of seasons, you look at Antony, you look at Lisandro Martinez, Onana, all Ajax players, or all former Ajax players, Malacia from Feyenoord. These are players that during his time in the Eredivisie, Ten Hag would have known. He's also got rid of a lot of big personalities. Look at Paul Pogba, you look at Cristiano Ronaldo. You look at players that maybe are more individual when it comes to their style of play. And Ten Hag's building a real team, the real united front at Manchester United. So it's understandable that Manchester United, or I can understand why Manchester United fans are excited about the incomings, but they do need to shift some of these players, like you said, Liv, because the net spend is not looking great in favour of Manchester United.
But in fairness, they have got rid of a lot of wages with those players who have gone as well, which will help things out. Of course, right to Tottenham, them and Bayern Munich are both confident in reaching a deal over the transfer of Harry Kane, with the Bundesliga side set to improve on their £81.7 million offer. Bayern plan to offer Kane a 5-year contract. Right, Kwaku, does this now... I asked this a few days ago, I'm going to ask it again. Does it still seem like a matter of time until this is done?
Well, it's from our point of view, obviously media in this country, it seems almost impossible that Harry Kane, the England captain, will go to Bayern Munich, a player in his prime, he's playing in the best league in the world. But if you listen to delegates from Bayern Munich, they're very confident and they've been very vocal. It does seem like it's a matter of time. Obviously, we've heard about meetings being on, meetings being off. But it seems like Harry Kane will be on his way to Bayern Munich, and it makes sense for a player at this stage of his career. Obviously, he's done everything in terms of goal scoring wise in England, obviously not got the trophies to show for it. And going to Bayern Munich, giving them the perfect opportunity to win that silverware that has eluded him for his whole career. And a player like Harry Kane deserves that. He's going to make Bayern Munich a better team, a Bayern Munich team who did win the Bundesliga last season, did go to the last game of the season. And they haven't filled the void left by Robert Lewandowski. Didn't work Sadio Mane, they tried to play him centrally. He's now on his way to Saudi Arabia. And so Harry Kane will fill that void, and by the sounds of it, it looks like that deal will get done. It just depends on when it does get done.
Well, in terms of when it does get done, though, Dan, is it important for all parties here, Bayern, Tottenham and Harry Kane, that it's done by the start of the season?
I think it's probably more important for Spurs, so they know where they stand up. I feel for Postecoglou a little bit, because I think he's come into the job with the right intentions, saying all the right things. I think he is actually a really good appointment for Tottenham, but there's kind of just always this sideshow at the moment of what's going on with Harry Kane. For him, he can't really plan. If Kane goes, you imagine they're going to be bringing an attacking player in. You would think, I know we had this debate the other day about whether they need to, but I don't think you can go with what you've got when you're losing Harry Kane's 30 goals. I think they'd need to get someone in to at least try and replace that in some way. For Bayern, it's not as much of an emergency. Their season starts a week later than the Premier League, so there's a bit more time on their side, but it just feels like Bayern are going to have to pay that money. We know what Tottenham are like to negotiate with. I think they will pay that money. They're in a comfortable, healthy position as well in terms of money, Bayern, because they've moved on Hernandez, they've moved on Sabitzer, and they've moved on Mane for around €95 million. That pretty much covers the Kane transfer fee, doesn't it? And we know they're a juggernaut.
And this is one player's wages rather than three.
Yeah,
exactly.
So, you know, they're in a good position to get this deal done by Bayern. So I just think for everyone's benefit, including the player in that, you want to get it done ASAP.
Who will be the most relaxed then? It sounds like Dan's saying Bayern because their season starts later.
Yeah, I mean, I've said Bayern as well, but the more I think about it, the more I'm not actually that convinced with my answer that is Bayern. The reason I said Bayern initially was because we all know Spurs set a price, and Spurs said if you want Kane, you pay this. So Bayern always knew what Spurs have wanted. Maybe they'll be slightly less relaxed now that Sadio Mane has gone to Saudi Arabia, because what are their options up top now? Are they they're a little bit light perhaps now that Sadio Mane's gone. But as Dan says, they've got a week longer, haven't they, before their season starts. So I still think out of Kane, Spurs and Bayern, they probably will be the most relaxed. But maybe not as much as I thought.
Yeah, I disagree with both of you. I think Harry Kane will be sitting pretty right now. It's a win-win for him. He either stays at the club that he loves, stays at the club that he will now be captain of, that he's broken all goal-scoring records for in terms of club records. It gets him closer to Alan Shearer's Premier League record. Or he joins Bayern Munich and he's got an automatic chance to win trophies straight away. Or he just stays at Spurs and next season has the pick of any club he wants in the world. Harry Kane's sitting pretty right now. Obviously, Bayern Munich are in a comfortable position because they think they're going to get the player. Clearly, it seems like that deal's going that way. But Harry Kane has got a win-win situation in this scenario, because if he stays at Spurs, he's at Spurs. He hasn't got an issue staying at Spurs. And if he goes to Bayern Munich, he's going to win a trophy.
Is Spurs then the sort of the club that are most, or the person that are most not relaxed about the situation?
Yeah, 100%, because the clock's ticking right now. We're getting closer and closer to the start of the Premier League season. Spurs kick off the Premier League campaign next Sunday. And if Harry Kane does leave, do they bring in a replacement? Is Richarlison the man they play going forward? Or if he stays, does he fit the way that Ange Postecoglou wants to play football? So Spurs are in limbo at the moment, and I can understand why Daniel Levy and the people within the hierarchy of Spurs want to get the exact price they want for Harry Kane, because he's a huge loss. You lose 30 Premier League goals if you let Harry Kane go.
This is the problem with the situation Spurs are in, though, because if Bayern don't pay it, they have Kane for another year, but then they lose him for free next summer, and then, as Kwaku says, he has the pick of the bunch of where he wants to go, and that could be an English club, and that's not what Spurs want. So they're in a real sticky situation, I think.
Spurs have got to set a deadline here, I think. If Harry Kane's still there on day one of the season for Tottenham, I think they just say, OK, we're not doing business now. I think if they start the season with Harry Kane, there's got to be a line drawn somewhere.
So basically, just everyone get it done as quickly as possible.
I think we've gone through every option.
That's what we've established. Right, still to come on Good Morning Transfers. West Ham fans, we want to hear from you. Hashtag Transfer Talk on Twitter. Our focus turns to you next. How worried are you about how you haven't got anyone in just yet? It's been a difficult window so far. Let us know on Hashtag Transfer Talk.
Sky Sports News, sponsored by Shaw Non-Stop Protection.
This summer, get Plusnet's full fibre from only $24.99 a month and make your broadband fuller, faster, more reliable, and oh, here we go. What a catch. Offer ends 9th of August. Search Plusnet Fibre now. That's a plus.
Treats erection difficulties for up to 36 hours. Plenty of time to change plans. Cialis Together could be your lucky day and a half.
The Vodafone sale is now on. Save an impressive £432 with the Samsung Galaxy S23. Now just £30 per month and £29 up front. Available on our reliable, award-winning network. Hurry, the sale ends 3rd of August.
Claire stayed in this amazing hotel and paid this much for her room. Jess found the same hotel on Trivago and paid a lot less. Trivago compares hotel offers from major booking sites, so you can find a great deal for you. Hotel Trivago.
Play Happy Tiger Bingo for the most awesome bingo winning experience. Simply search for Happy Tiger Bingo.
At the Cotswold Company, we know your table hosts many memories. That's why we build our furniture to stand the test of time with traditional craftsmanship. Along with our beautiful range of tableware, glassware and accessories, you can bring your home to life with the perfect dining table. The Cotswold Company. Discover our range at your nearest store or at cotswoldco.com.
1 in 2 of us will get cancer in our lifetime. You hear about it everywhere, you see it. You don't actually feel it until it walks through those doors.
I said, are you trying to tell me that you think I have breast cancer?
Dad is Superman. Nothing can ever happen to Dad.
You never thought it's going to happen to you. Sorry.
Cancer's relentless, but so are we.
In the last 40 years, cancer survival has doubled in the UK.
We've helped to develop many of the world's leading cancer treatments.
Giving monthly allows us to commit to long-term cancer research projects.
If people didn't donate before, would I have got the kind of treatment that I got?
Research helped give me extra time with my family.
I want to be a scientist so I can do research to help people like Mummy.
Everyone has a part to play.
So play your part.
Please donate right now.
Please donate monthly at cruk.org/donate. And together we will beat cancer.
I've never seen such a horrific crime.
This is a robbery. Put your hands up!
Move in.
Cover me.
FBI! Hands up!
You ready for this?
Move, move, move!
Take a look at this.
You're going to have to see it to believe it.
I want to bring this heinous attacker to justice. Nothing will ever be more important than the case we're about to receive.
An unmissable FBI lineup on Sky Witness.
In support of Ukraine, join 2 of its football legends.
The blue and the yellow team.
As they captain an all-star lineup featuring some of the game's greatest ever players. As well as celebrity guests.
Join us. Play your part to support Ukraine.
Game for Ukraine, live from Stamford Bridge, Saturday at 5 on Sky Max.
Sky Sports News, sponsored by Shaw Non-Stop Protection.
Welcome back. Time to get to Nottingham Forest, who are looking forward to a second consecutive season in the Premier League. And with us now is broadcaster and Forest fan Max Hayes. Max, always great to see you. What do you think of the business so far? And it looks like we're not expecting another window like last summer.
Good morning, Tom. Yeah, thank you for having me on again. Well, it's been an incredibly different summer, hasn't it, really? And a quieter one, too. I don't think there's time for Forest to sign 30 signings, although never say never with our ownership. I think last season, lots of people criticised Forest for making 30 signings, and probably justified, really. I don't think anyone could have expected Forest to have made that many signings and for it all to gel instantly. Of course it didn't, and Steve Cooper worked his magic to make sure that Forest almost did what they needed to do, grind out results towards the tail end of last season to, of course, survive. Within those 30 signings, though, so many key players and so many players that were crucial to Forest last season. So this summer's very different. It's very quiet and it's focused a lot as well off the pitch, shall we say, with certain restructure. You know, you've got the ex-Rangers guy, Ross Wilson, coming in as the chief operating football officer. So it's been a more off-the-pitch development this summer. But, of course, we kind of need to get down to business. And there's a few key areas for Forest to fill, really, Tom.
Ola Aina's come in, Anthony Elanga's come in, the loan for Chris Wood has been made permanent, as we knew it would be when you survive. But also in the market for two goalkeepers, Matt Turner and Dean Henderson at the moment look like the two front runners to come in. I assume that's not the only thing the club needs.
No, definitely. I mean, I think there's got to be some real urgency about the goalkeeper situation. I think all Forest fans thought that the easiest deal, the first deal to kind of pass through when the transfer window opened, would have been Dean Henderson. But that just doesn't seem to be happening at the moment. It's reported that he's suffering a few injuries at the moment, which is difficult. We were kind of waiting for Man U, obviously, to get their man and then Forest to go and pursue Henderson. But I think it's come to that point now, whereas if Forest cannot get Dean Henderson, then they've got to go elsewhere and look at the likes of course, Matt Turner's been linked as well from Arsenal. So he's another bright young goalkeeper. Do Forest go for him and kind of give up on the chase for Henderson? What I will say is that Dean Henderson looked like he was massively enjoying his time at Nottingham Forest last season, up until he was injured, and Keylor Navas stepped in. So it would be nice to see Henderson back, but I think, we're 2-3 weeks now away from the start of the season, and without a first choice goalkeeper, no disrespect to, of course, George Shelby and Ethan Horvath, but Forest need to kind of get a goalkeeper over the line.
What about keeping players? We know there's a lot of interest, understandably, in Brennan Johnson. We also know the club don't want to sell him. How big a loss would it be if he was to go, and how much would you be expecting to get?
Well, I mean, Brennan Johnson will always be remembered as an icon, really, for getting Forest promoted and, of course, helping us survive last season. He is a key player. His partnership with Morgan Gibbs-White this season has been nothing short of phenomenal, and will, of course, attract interest from other clubs. It's bound to happen. Forest have, it's been reported that Forest want no less than 50 million, really, and that's probably the right offer. Do Forest consider it if that offer of 50 million came in? Oh, I mean, it's a really difficult one. Forest have got to make sure that they're under the financial fair play rules and the strict Premier League regulations. So possibly, but I think I speak for all Forest fans when it'd be nice to see him here for another season, or at least until the next January transfer window.
Great stuff, Max. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Tom. Speak soon.
Now, West Ham, they've ended their interest in Southampton's James Ward-Prowse due to the price the Championship side are asking for their captain. West Ham had a £20 million bid rejected and had been expected to return with a higher bid. We had some tweets from West Ham fans before we get to the Ward-Prowse deal. Adam says, I'm very worried about the season ahead. He thinks there's something not right at the club at the moment, given that they haven't got anyone in. In fairness, Adam, though, they are trying. Let's give them that. Someone who goes by Moisiah says, we've got Sir David Moyes. As long as he's in charge, I'll always have hope and belief in the situation. It can be turned around, even when it's at our most difficult. We are all with Mr Moyes, and Adam says his main concern actually is the fact that David Moyes hasn't got long left on his contract. A few players haven't got long left on their contracts, so rather than players coming in, he's more worried about losing players and the manager as well. But going back to James Ward-Prowse, Dan, are you surprised that that deal is off? We know West Ham are targeting midfielders, and that one looked like the closest.
I don't think West Ham can afford for this deal to be off. It's all well and good saying that you've pulled out and you're not coming back, but I would say they're desperate for a central midfielder. They've got Souček, Downs, Paqueta can play there, but his best position is a number 10. And then they've got Connor Coventry, who's played 1 minute of Premier League football. So West Ham needed a central midfielder, arguably, with Declan Rice. They've known for probably 12 months Declan Rice is going. So I can understand the West Ham fans' angst. They've lost a couple of coaches as well that haven't been replaced in Nevin and Warburton as well.
We had a tweet about that, actually, as well, yeah.
There's a lot going on at West Ham, and I feel for their fans a little bit because they've won the Europa Conference League, and you think, right, let's move on to the next level now. We're in the Europa League again next season. Let's kick on. Let's keep this feel-good going. But their lack of activity has almost dragged the feeling down a little bit for West Ham fans. I think they can cope with... Well, West Ham fans knew Declan Rice was going. I think they can cope with that. But it feels a bit bizarre that there's not been any real succession planning. I mean, David Moyes said himself, the club have made several offers for players. We're out in the market. We're quite active. Hopefully some of them will come off in the future. But the season starts in 10 days' time, and I've just gone through their midfield options, and if they're their midfield options coming into the near the end of the window and they haven't brought anyone in, I would worry for West Ham this season.
Quaker, with Ward-Prowse, I said last week when the £20 million deal, which was actually 17 plus 3, went in, I thought that was quite a low fee for James Ward-Prowse. What do you think?
Yeah, that's too low. And it's when it comes to these transfer dealings, it's about how much a club value him. And if you think about how valuable a player could be to a club, there's no more valuable player to a club than James Ward-Prowse to Southampton. He's their captain. I think the fact that he is a free kick specialist takes away from his actual overall play. He's a very, very good player. He's an England international, obviously missed out on going to the World Cup. But Ward-Prowse is a very good Premier League player. So 20 million is very low for a player of his calibre. Scored 9 goals last season in the Premier League, got 4 assists. Invaluable to a team in Southampton who are recouping big fees for players that they're selling. If you look at how much they want for Lavia, if you look at how much they got for Salisu, this is a club that sell quite well. So for West Ham to be walking away from this deal, potentially walking away from this deal, is surprising because James Ward-Prowse is an asset, and like you touched on there, he replaces Declan Rice, who was invaluable not only on the pitch but in the dressing room for West Ham.
And West Ham's transfer dilemma comes after they saw a £40 million bid for Chelsea midfielder Conor Gallagher rejected. Fulham's João Palhinha is still an option, but a potential move has been complicated by his shoulder injury and Fulham's asking price. Initial talks with Manchester United have indicated a move for Scott McTominay could prove out of West Ham's price range as well. So, West Ham fans, we are asking you how frustrated you are at the moment, or are you relaxed? Let us know, #TransferTalk. But what do you think, Olivia?
Yeah, it does feel like there's a lot of stumbling blocks for West Ham. I think the Conor Gallagher one's interesting because I think that also depends on whether Chelsea bring in a new midfielder as well. So that could still be an option. They are obviously the only club not to make a single signing in this transfer window. Like Dan says, they were involved in a relegation battle for such a large part of last season. I know they were focusing all on the Europa Conference League, but you would have thought that now they're going to be in the Premier League and the Europa League, which is an even harder competition, that they're going to need a bigger squad. And the fact that they've lost someone like Declan Rice, who offers you so much more than just on the pitch, it's a huge struggle and very frustrating for West Ham fans. The only thing I would say is that there is still a long way to go in this transfer window, and there is still plenty of time for these deals to happen.
They got off to a bad start last season, though, didn't they? And they never really recovered from that in the Premier League. I just worry with their squad size at the moment. If they did that again, they could well find themselves having another bad start.
I know that no one has come in, as we've made clear, Dan, but in fairness, they are really trying, West Ham. They seem to be targeting the right players, just not quite getting one over the line yet. And there is time before the end of the window.
Yeah, I get that. Look, there's obviously been bids in, and as David Moyes says, they are active. But you can say you're trying, but if you're making an offer of 20 million for James Ward-Prowse, you know that offer's not going to get accepted. In the modern-day transfer market, Southampton, even in the Championship, got Jason Wilcox running their recruitment side of things now. They're not going to accept £20 million for their captain, just as West Ham didn't accept the lower offers for Declan Rice. They had a fee in mind that they wanted. So It's fair enough for Southampton wanting that money for James Ward-Prowse, albeit I think they've already replaced him in their squad. But if they start the season with James Ward-Prowse, I'd guess Southampton would be pretty happy. But Ward-Prowse is the one that makes the most sense from all the midfielders that you've just mentioned. As good a player as I think João Paulinho is, I think Ward-Prowse perhaps fills the leadership void left by Declan Rice. We know David Moyes' teams like to make the most of set pieces, and Ward-Prowse's set piece delivery is better than anyone's.
Well, the deal to take Manchester City forward Carlos Borges to West Ham, that one's off. The £14 million move looked as good as done as recently as last week, but it appears there were delays in getting it done due to agents' fees and personal terms. West Ham believe the player is now on the verge of agreeing a deal to join Ajax and are now focusing on other targets. And remember, they are also keen on Harry Maguire at centre-back as well. We will keep our eye on West Ham, but plenty on the way. We'll hear from Chelsea boss Mauricio Pochettino on their transfer targets.
Sky Sports News, sponsored by Shaw Non-Stop Protection.
This is Yemen right now. Years of conflict has left the health system on the brink of collapse. Children in Yemen face war, hunger, and disease. Yemen may seem far away, but there is something you can do. To find out how you can help, search UNICEF Yemen online or text Yemen to 84915. £10 could help provide life-saving food for a child for a week. I've seen UNICEF's work and the difference your gift can make for children. No child should ever die because they don't have enough of the right food to eat. We cannot stand by and do nothing. So please, search UNICEF Yemen online or text Yemen to 84915 and help save a child's life today.
Welcome to Tesco Mobile, where summer is fully loaded and so are our deals. Get the Samsung Galaxy A14 and a Galaxy Chromebook Go for just $19.99 a month with club card prices, saving you an incredible £180. That's a load more for a lot less. This is Supermarket Mobile. To switch, pop in store or search Tesco Mobile. Every little helps.
Switch your broadband at Uswitch and you could save £174. That put a spring in his step. Visit uswitch.com.
From food and drinks to flights and transfers, there's so much included with TUI River Cruises. Plus, you can now cruise down the Nile next winter. TUI, live happy, ATOL protected.
Do you need to borrow money for home improvements, a car, or paying off debts? Then you've come to the right place. Everyday Loans. Just tell us how much you want to borrow, up to £15,000. At Everyday Loans, we offer a service that's friendly and reliable. Apply online or on your phone. So whatever your credit record, apply now at everydayloans.co.uk.
Awarded Best Customer Service at the 2023 Moneyfax Consumer Awards.
Representative APR 99.9%.
Watch a fascinating double-headed fixture from the 100. Watch all the action live on Sky Sports.
The galaxy still needs its guardians.
You're an idiot.
I am Groot.
Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, available now in Sky Store.
There's only one place to experience every magical moment.
Wicked.
Sky Cinema Wizarding World, available now.
They would laugh at me and say, this is not a sport for women.
We were challenging the norm, and that was frightening people.
Most of my fight was outside of the ring.
Sky Sports News, sponsored by Shaw Non-Stop Protection.
Welcome back. Let's return to our top story. Manchester United are on the verge of signing Rasmus Højlund from Atalanta. With us to tell us more about the player is Danish journalist Morten Brun. Morten, thanks very much for coming on. How much excitement is there about this deal in Denmark, with Højlund on the verge of joining one of the biggest clubs in the world?
Yeah, the excitement is pretty huge in Denmark.
Manchester United is probably the club with the most Danish fans at all, and Rasmus Højlund is our striker from the national team. So I would say that with this transfer getting ever closer, it will be the biggest transfer story in Danish football ever. So the excitement is huge.
So tell us more about him as a player. What can Manchester United fans expect?
They can expect a very committed player, a player with a high work rate and with a great attitude. His development in Denmark has been sensational. It's only 1.5 years ago that FC Copenhagen, the leading Danish club, let him go and brought in 5 new strikers. They let him go to Austria, and now with only 1 season behind him in the Serie A, and as people might be aware, Rasmus Højlund didn't even join the squad for the World Cup, for the Danish World Cup in Qatar. So his development has been absolutely sensational.
People are questioning whether he's ready for the Premier League now or whether he needed another year or two elsewhere. Does he need time to develop, or can he hit the ground running?
I would say that he needs a bit of time to develop. He's only 20 years old, and I accept that when Manchester United call for you, you just join Manchester United. Why wouldn't you? But he's not the finished article. He did sensationally well when you looked at his age and his story when he came to the Serie A last year. But he was also benched for a couple of times at Atalanta. So I think it's a very, very big step for Rasmus Højlund to join a club like Manchester United at this moment of time.
What do you think about the price? Is that fair?
Yeah. What do you think about prices in international football? When you look at his age, he's only 20 years old, and when you look at his potential and when you look at the price that the Manchester United pay for players, I'd say it's fair enough, really.
Okay, and the thing is, right, he's blonde, he's a striker, and he's left-footed. Is that where the comparisons with Erling Haaland end?
I'd say yes. They're both from Scandinavian countries, and some British people might not be aware that Norway and Sweden are different countries, but they are. And I would say that it's a tough call for Rasmus Højlund to be to be compared to Erling Haaland. Erling Haaland was, in my opinion, much more the Finnish article when he joined Manchester City. And if Manchester United fans expect Rasmus Højlund to score 36 times in the Premier next season, I'm afraid they'd be disappointed. But in a reasonable amount of time, I think they'll be happy about Rasmus Højlund. I think he's got the potential, but he'll be even better in 2 or 3 seasons' time.
Morten, that was great insight. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, Chelsea have been busy in the transfer window, but Mauricio Pochettino has again reiterated his desire to bring in more players before the window closes.
We suffer a big loss with Fofana. I think it's normal that the club is working hard to try, to earn or to try to find to reinforce that area. But it's similar to that we were talking about Levi, who deserves to play is going to play. Chelsea need to have good players, players that can perform, thinking to win the Premier League, to win trophies, and of course we are going to try to reinforce all the areas and to provide the team a good balance and being competitive in all the areas. But for sure, we are trying to find, and to improve the squad, and that is an area with Fofana out, that we need to reinforce.
Let's talk Chelsea, because Juventus are exploring a possible swap deal with Chelsea for Romelu Lukaku to join Juventus and Dusan Vlahovic to move to Stamford Bridge. It's thought Juventus would want cash plus Lukaku for Vlahovic, so it would be a very complex deal to do. So, Quakey, from the Chelsea side of things, would they be happy with Vlahovic? Would you be happy with Vlahovic?
Lukaku's wages are an issue for Chelsea. As a Chelsea fan myself, I've been scarred too many times by Chelsea signing strikers from Serie A. Me and Dan were going through it this morning. You look at it, Lukaku, obviously, Shevchenko, Mutu, Crespo, Higuain. These players have not been roaring successes at Chelsea. And Chelsea fans are excited by Nicholas Jackson in pre-season. Obviously, me and Olivia have been watching Chelsea pre-season games very closely, analysing them.
She hasn't slept.
And it's Chelsea have got an exciting crop of forwards. Obviously, their intention before pre-season was to bring in an experienced striker to complement those forwards. So it makes sense why Chelsea would be interested in this swap deal for Vlahovic for Lukaku. But personally, I've seen this story before in terms of experienced strikers who have got proven track records of scoring goals elsewhere. Be linked to Chelsea bring them through the door. You'd never see the player that they were in that league. So personally, I would like to see Chelsea go forward with the strikers that we've got, unless something crazy becomes available. But I understand why the hierarchy at Chelsea would be interested in this still. And I also understand why Juventus would be interested in this deal as well. Nicky Bandini and Mina Rzouki came on and explained how Juventus are very interested in Lukaku. He's a player that scored a lot of goals in Italy. Seems like that style of play suits him the best. So the deal makes sense from the club's point of view, but as a Chelsea fan, I'm happy to not see that deal happen.
Are either of you concerned that Juventus are so willing to get rid of Vlahovic? He hasn't been there that long. I think he struggled with injuries a little bit over the last 12 months. He had a great scoring record at his previous club, but it hasn't gone that well at Juventus. And I thought that was... I understand they've got to get Lukaku off the books, completely get that. But I thought Vlahovic was the kind of signing Chelsea were kind of moving away from now.
Yeah, it is. And if you look at it, like you're right to point out his great scoring record to Fiorentina, it was amazing. There was a lot of hype when Juventus signed him. Hasn't gone to plan. Last couple of seasons, he's only scored 23 goals in 63 games in all competitions, which is not the rate of a top-class striker. And so, yeah, it's interesting to see Chelsea be in the mix for Vlahovic, especially because we are trying to get a lot younger. But there could be an argument to be made about the average age of Chelsea squad. That's a bit troubling if you're going into a Premier League season where there is no longer a top 6 or a top 7, it's a top 8 or top 9 with your team involved in it as well. And so maybe that experience is what Chelsea are looking at in terms of having grown up in the dressing room.
I think options as well. I think, Chelsea fans have got very excited by Nicholas Jackson and Nkunku in pre-season. But again, it's just options in attack. We haven't seen much of Armando Broja because he's just coming back from his injury. Pochettino hasn't seen a lot of him. So I think this Vlahovic deal is just purely for numbers. And obviously, his goal-scoring record, especially at Fiorentina, was really good. And if it means getting Lukaku off the books and the wages off the books, then it does, I think, make sense for all parties.
You trust Pochettino, whatever, don't
I
you?
trust Mauricio Pochettino, whatever Poch wants.
Well, Chelsea are expected to formalise their interest in Brighton goalkeeper Robert Sanchez. He's got 2 years left in his contract, and it's thought that Chelsea are looking into the possibility of a loan and a permanent deal. As for midfield, ideally Chelsea want to bring in 2 that will be part of the first team squad next season. Brighton's Moise Caicedo remains the primary target, while there's strong interest in Southampton's Romeo Lavia. Personal terms not expected to be a problem for either of them. But Olivia, how important would Caicedo be?
I think midfield options were always Chelsea's priority or should have been Chelsea's priority this summer. I think letting Mateo Kovacic, Mason Mount, N'Golo Kante, Ruben Loftus-Cheek all go meant that we really needed someone to play alongside Enzo Fernandez, who I think someone like Moises Caicedo would just allow Enzo to absolutely flourish. I think he would suit the style of play as well. De Zerbi has described him as a complete midfielder. He's just 21 years old. I think a 6 is so important. You look at teams that have won the league over the last 5, 6, 7 years, they've always had a world-class defensive midfielder. When I look back to Chelsea's teams over the last 5, 6, 7 years, the first player that comes to mind is Nemanja Matic. That was in 2016-17, and that was, coincidentally, the last time Chelsea won the league. And it's no coincidence that you need a world-class DM to win the league. And I'm not saying Caicedo's world-class because he's still so young, but I definitely think he's on the way, and I think that he would genuinely, especially his profile of player, would be absolutely perfect in Chelsea's team.
And I also think that Chelsea have spent a lot of money on Enzo Fernandez on such a protracted deal at the back end of January. Caicedo unlocks him, and I've taken a lot of flack online. People said unlock FC, but it's the truth though. Enzo Fernandez is a player that's got immense quality. Obviously, he won the World Cup playing in a slightly different position than he plays for Chelsea. But Caicedo will bring the best out of him and will serve the role that N'Golo Kante did for so many years at Chelsea so well. So I understand why Chelsea are very, very keen in Caicedo and keep on going in with bids. And hopefully that's a deal that gets over the line for all Chelsea fans' sake, because Caicedo, we've seen it last season, and it is just one season, what he brings to a team and what he brings out of the other players in the team.
Well, Caicedo actually won 2 awards at Brighton. Last night he was named Player of the Year and Players' Player of the Year by his colleagues, and this is what he had to say at the event.
I'm so happy to reach to the Europa League with Brighton, the team who opened the doors in the Premier League was so good. Why not give my best for this amazing club?
Well, Axel Disasi has arrived in the UK for his Chelsea medical. Chelsea agreed a £38.6 million deal with Monaco last week, and Chelsea have completed the signing of midfielder Leslie Okokotru. He moves to... I'm just going to try it again, OK? I've practiced it a million times. Ugo Chukwu. That's correct, OK? He moves for £23.5 million from Rennes. Right now, there's a transfer line reaching us right now, actually, and it comes about Ainsley Maitland-Niles. Sheffield United and Luton are interested in signing him this summer. He's a free agent after leaving Arsenal, and he's taking some time to assess his options before making a decision on his future. He's already had an offer from Trabzonspor, as well as 3 clubs in Saudi Arabia. So that's the latest on Ainsley Maitland-Niles. But next we'll be debating who's had the best transfer window so far. Get in touch with your opinions. #TransferTalk.
Sky Sports News, sponsored by Shaw Non-Stop Protection.
Hey, good news, Dad.
Get help improving your credit score with ClearScore.
Here we are.
The UK's #1 credit score and report app.
Leaving a gift in your will to Cancer Research UK is a pledge that helps fund vital research. Research to save the ones we love. Research in memory of those we've lost. Research that creates moments like this.
You don't need any further treatment.
At Cancer Research UK, gifts in wills fund 1/3 of our research. So every pledge today helps secure life-saving research for future generations. Thousands have made their pledge. Find out how to make yours by requesting a free Gifts in Wills guide at cruk.org/pledge or call 0800 035 6000. And together, we will beat cancer.
This summer, get Plusnet's full fibre from only $24.99 a month and make your broadband fuller, faster, more reliable, and oh, here we go. What a catch. Offer ends 9th of August. Search Plusnet Fibre now. That's a plus.
Hazard avoidance is a big part of driving. But even if you're the best driver on the road, no one can predict lightning or an escaped herd of cattle. At Direct Line, when hazards like these strike, we won't take away your no-claim discount. Come direct to find out more. We're on it. Direct Line.
Welcome to 32 Red Spins! Check out our top Slingo games, like Britain's Got Talent and Tipping Point. Spin it to win it and get a £10 bonus when you deposit and spend 20. Play responsibly and keep gaming fun at 32redspins.com.
LV have always made it simple for me to get great value car insurance, so I can get their cover from just £219. Get your quote today at lv.com.
The region to your north has been upgraded to severe storm warning.
We are evacuating ship.
Commence rescue operations.
No matter what happened on that ferry, shouldn't have sunk that fast.
Most of the passengers were still in their cabins when the storm hit.
So almost 300 people still missing.
A vessel like that should have stayed on the surface for hours, if not days.
No! What the hell happened on there?
Brand new Departure. Available now on Sky Witness.
The best players in the world take on Ayrshire Dundonald Lynx. Starts tomorrow, live on Sky Sports.
Sky Sports News, sponsored by Shaw Non-Stop Protection.
We've still got almost a month left in the transfer window, but we're going to have a look at who's done the best business so far with the Premier League campaign starting a week on Friday. Both Dan, Olivia and Kwaku have made a choice themselves. And Dan, we'll start with you, and I bet you everybody can guess who you're going to take.
In fairness, we've all picked a team each, and I didn't have the first pick, so I think there's only maybe 4 teams in the Premier League that you can pick, and Villa were one of them. Olivia was going quite heavy on Villa, to be fair.
Yeah, I was,
when we were discussing it.
How many weeks has it taken you to, or how many shows has it taken you to get Villa into the...
This is my 5th show since we've come back, and I think it's the first time I've uttered the words after Villa, so I can't be...
Well, that's nonsense for a start, I'll tell you that.
Anyway, let's get on to the best business. I just think Villa ended the season really well under Unai Emery. If the season had started when he came in, Villa would have been in the top 3-4. So there's been undoubted progress since he's come in, and I think they made 3 very clever signings, 3 signings who've all got experience of playing European football, got experience of that Thursday, Sunday, which not many of the Villa squad have. I think they're in the position where they don't actually have to rush any of the new signings in. I don't think you'll see Torres and Tielemans go straight into the team because the central midfield partnership and the centre-back partnership has been so good under Unai Emery. And then you add Diaby into the mix up front, who's a really, really exciting player. I watched him the other night against Brentford. He is absolutely electric. He was linking up with John McGinn, an absolute treat. So you think of the improvement in the players that were already there in the time Emery was there, with the pre-season, with those 3 bits of quality added. I just think Villa are in a really good place, got the business done early so that the players have had a pre-season as well. And if the window's shut tomorrow, I'll be pretty happy with where Villa are at.
And in terms of the outgoings, you haven't lost anybody that you were desperate to keep?
That's the thing. I don't think there's a star man at Villa. I think the star man is the manager. Villa have built a good squad now over a number of years. They just had a manager previously that didn't know how to get anything out of them. You now look at that squad under Emery, and I think it's a squad that's going places, and if the coefficients align and 5th place can get Champions League, I honestly don't think it's beyond the realms of possibility that Villa can finish 5th, finish 7th last season. I think we're in for a really exciting season. Shaking your head.
The things that you don't see at home is the arguments off air. And at the moment, this week, the battle between Aston Villa and Chelsea fans has been...
That needs to be a poll. Who finishes higher next season, Aston Villa or Chelsea?
I'm trying to keep it away from the show, but honestly, I thought there was going to be fisticuffs at some point. Right, so that's Aston Villa that Dan has shockingly gone for. But Olivia, who have you gone for?
Surprisingly, I've actually gone for Arsenal. I think one of the problems last season for Arsenal was strength and depth. I think it was inexperience when it mattered. Gabriel Jesus actually came out and said it was a young squad. We got nervous at just the wrong time. I mean, the signing of Declan Rice for me is one of the signings, if not the signing of the summer. I think he starts in near enough every team in world football. Maybe now that Gundogan's gone, he starts for Man City. Maybe not Real Madrid. They're the team that are jumping out at me. But pretty much every other squad. I think Kai Havertz is an interesting one. He's obviously a very versatile player. We're unsure whether he'll start for Arsenal. I think he has been in pre-season. Not sure. Mikel Arteta came out and said we're not quite sure where his best position is, but he is a versatile player, can play a lot of positions in that front line and in midfield. And Jurrien Timber as well, back up for right back, but also he's played left back in pre-season as well. So I think just adding to what they already had was important, and I now think they have a squad in a much better position to rival Manchester City for the Premier League. I do think they need more outgoings. That might be the one criticism of Arsenal this transfer window, is that they do need to now get players out, but because they have got quite a big squad. But in terms of incomings, I think they're definitely up there.
Yeah, because in terms of the kind of key players, I guess Xhaka went out, but that was in order to help fund Declan Rice, of course. So we've had Aston Villa, we've had Arsenal, and Kwaku, who have you gone for? Of course, this is so far. There's still, like I say, almost a month left in the window.
Yeah, I'll slate him down for picking his own team. I'll pick my own team as well. I'll pick Chelsea. It's more about, obviously, the incomings here for Chelsea, and it's clear the direction Chelsea are going in terms of youth. Nkunku was the deal that Chelsea fans knew about early on, but Nicholas Jackson's the player we've talked about on the show, who's impressed in pre-season for Chelsea, and some youngsters that are probably going to go back out on loan. And it's the outgoings I want to focus on for Chelsea, though. It's getting that business done. In the previous life or under a different regime, Chelsea would have loaned a lot of those players out. If you look at players like Christian Pulisic, Edouard Mendy, I'm looking at those players that may be on the fringes of the squad now, Kalidou Koulibaly. Chelsea managed to recoup a fee for those players. And the previous regime is there front and centre. If you look at Timu Bakayoko, who's a player who's only just left Chelsea, he's a player who had multiple loans, and that's what Chelsea would have done in days gone by. But you look at Kai Havertz, Mason Mount, Mateo Kovacic. Despite the fact they've gone to rivals of Chelsea managed to recoup quite big fees for those players. And so it's more about the outgoings and the incomings for Chelsea. And the fact that they've done a lot of this business before the season's begun is in stark contrast to last season, where Chelsea had a mess of a pre-season. The business was all over the place. And by the time the season...
so good work from Chelsea. Right, OK, Good Morning Transfers returns at 9 o'clock tomorrow. And we've got Transfer Talk back in 2 hours' time at midday. Sorry to cut you off mid-flow there. I think your earpiece has come out. And transfer shows at 5 p.m. and 7 p.m. But on the way next, plenty more transfer news on Sky Sports. News we'll hear from Pochettino.